As we head into a dangerous cold snap, the Keokuk Homeless Alliance wants to establish a warming center in Lee County.
And they're asking you for help finding a location. WGEM's Shakayla McCamick reports from Lee County.
Amy Smith, founder of the Keokuk Homeless Alliance, first formed the group in 2021 after seeing a resident asked what kind of support they could find in town.
I responded, well, there's not much, because I had been already working here and working with homeless individuals, and I knew what some of the struggles were here in helping people.
Since then, the group has been helping the population by providing donated furniture, clothes, and other essentials to those in need. As temperatures plummet across the tri-states, the race is now on for the Alliance to find a building in Keokuk to hold a warming center. The Salvation Army allows individuals to come and get warm during the week, but Smith would like to find a more permanent home for the nighttime. In July, city officials set an ordinance in place that establishes the rules and regulations that would need to be maintained in order to put a warming center in Keokuk.
A warming center can go into a church or other place of worship or some type of community building. There's no permits for that. They can have up to 35 individuals, at least to have a couple employees or volunteers on site.
The ordinance stipulates that a warming center would not be allowed to accept individuals if temperatures are higher than 32 degrees. But Broomhall says if someone needs to get out of bad weather, the city will allow it. Smith worries that the homeless population could face harder times if a warming center isn't established.
I think it doesn't serve the community at all to have that as part of who we are.
Shakayla McCamick, WGEM News, Keokuk.
And if you would like to help the Keokuk Homeless Alliance with a donation, or if you know of a warming center location, you can reach out to the organization's Facebook page, and you can find that link and more information on the homeless population in Keokuk at WGEMnews.com.